Good morning, everyone. Just going to call the meeting, Agricultural Affairs Committee meeting of March 3rd, 2016 to order. So we have a fairly brief agenda today. We are going to get a presentation discussing our wild parsonage strategy for 2016, which is super exciting. So confirmation of minutes of our meeting of February 4th, 2016. Declaration of interest? Seeing none? Thank you. Just before I get into the agenda, just have to read my statements. This is a public meeting to consider the proposed zoning bylaw amendments listed as items 3 to 6 on today's agenda. For the items listed above, only those who make oral submissions today or written submissions before the amendments are adopted may appeal the matter to the Ontario Municipal Board. In addition, the applicant may appeal the matter to the Ontario Municipal Board if council does not adopt the amendment within 120 days of receipt of the application for zoning and 180 days for an official plan amendment. A comment sheet is available at the door for anyone wishing to submit written comments on these amendments. So on to the agenda, the first item is a commemorative naming proposal for the Alan Sadler Fire Station in North Gore. It's the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve the proposal to rename the Ottawa Fire Station 83, located at 2352 Roger Stevens Drive, the Alan Sadler Fire Station. On the item? Carried. Thank you. Item number 2 is the wild parsonage strategy. We'll hold that for presentation. Item number 3 is a zoning bylaw amendment for 211 Donald B. Monroe Drive. And I do know that we have a...
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yeah.
I believe staff and Mr. Winter here on behalf of the proponent on this item, they have reached an agreement, and we're very satisfied with that to the point where we get some of the neighbors to send us letter in support of this change. So I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Mr. Winter and to our staff for working together on this one, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you very much, Councillor. I know that Mr. Winters is here to speak to it, but I believe if we're prepared to carry it, that you are satisfied with that. Great, thank you. So that the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 211 Donald B. Monroe Drive to rezone a portion of the property from rural commercial to rural commercial exception, XXR, and a bunch of more X's, and to rezone a portion of the property from rural commercial to rural countryside, shown as areas A and B respectively in document 1 and as detailed in document 2. On the item?
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 4 is the zoning bylaw amendment for 5371 Boundary Road and part of 5329, 5341, and 5383 Boundary Road. We do have speakers on that, so we'll hold that item. Item number 5 and item number 6 are both surplus farm severances. Item number 5, zoning bylaw amendment for part of 6210 Corduroy Road in Cumberland Ward. The Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of 6210 Corduroy Road to prohibit residential uses on retained farmland as detailed in document 2. On the item?
Okay.
Carried, thank you. Item number 6 is zoning bylaw amendment for part of 2184 Black Creek Road in Osgood Ward. The Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for part of 2184 Black Creek Road to prohibit residential uses on the retained farmland as detailed in document 2. On the item?
Okay.
Carried. Item number 7 is a councilor's item, Councillor Blaise item, speed reduction on Wall Road, that the Agricultural Affairs Committee recommend council approve to reduce the speed of the 80-kilometer-an-hour portion of Wall Road to 60 km/h to match the speed limit as set on 10th Line Road to enforce speed limit uniformity with vehicle drivers and consequently reduce the speed of traffic traveling into the 50 km/h portion of Wall Road from the current 80 km/h portion of Wall Road. Do you want to comment on it at all?
Yeah, just to provide councillors context, the two main arterials on either side of Wall Road are 60 km/h. Wall Road goes east-west, is a village setting, 50 with an 80 leading up to it. doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to keep that section as 80, given the context. It's also been included in the urban boundary expansion, will soon be urbanized, so getting this taken care of now for the residents, and obviously speeds will come down as it's urbanized anyways. It makes perfect sense to me.
All right, thank you very much. So just a reminder, after people say carried, and it goes to council, don't drive fast on Wall Road anymore. So on the item? Carried. Thank you. Now we'll go back to item number 2, which is the 2016 Wild Parsnip Strategy. And we have Leila Gibbons here to present to us. This is our second year of kind of pushing forward with a stronger wild parsnip strategy. I know that this has come up. I know my office has been working on this since at least 2012, and this is the second year that we're being a bit more aggressive with this program. So this is exciting news today as to what we're doing going forward, and look forward to the presentation.
Great, thank you for having us here today. So we're going to look at a little bit from the 2015 wild parsnip strategy and then moving on to the 2016 strategy. So a little bit of background information. On January 1st of 2015, wild parsnip was added to the province's noxious weed list. Through research and discussions with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, our neighboring municipalities, the Invasive Plant Council, as well as some of our other partners, we quickly learned that wild parsnip slowly invades unmaintained areas, and it rapidly reproduces once it's taken over those areas. With this rapid regeneration of the plant, it reduces the biodiversity in these invaded areas. One of the things that we did learn as well is that each of the plants can produce around 1,000 seeds each year. So these seeds can lie dormant in the ground for 3 to 5 years, which makes it very difficult to control. And the plant, more particularly the toxic sap within it, poses potential health risks to the residents and our field operations staff if they do come in contact with it. All right, so in early 2015, Public Works staff developed a pilot program with the intent to reduce or minimize the spread of the wild parsnip across the city. Council provided Public Works Department with a budget of $100,000 to move forward with the strategy. There was an initial mapping exercise which was conducted in 2014, which mapped the areas across the city as either low, medium, or high infestation levels. The 2015 strategy focused on the most highly infested areas along the roadsides and a handful of highly infested areas in our parks and pathways. Staff set up a number of test plots to test the effectiveness of different strategies. So for example, accelerated grass cutting, application of a herbicide Clearview in the late spring and in some areas in early fall, or a combination of both. We brought on an agronomist to monitor and report back to us on the test plots and the results of them. Late summer, early fall of 2015, staff did a more comprehensive mapping exercise to show the spread of the plant, which will help us focus our efforts for the 2016 strategy. So finally, in November of 2015, we met with a number of our stakeholders and partners to go over the results from year one and to talk about how we can work together on the strategy moving forward. So in 2015, we launched an education and awareness campaign. With the assistance of our partners in public health, we developed an information sheet and a postcard which provided residents with information on how to identify the plant and to avoid it, ways to remove it from your own property, as well as the spraying locations. The information sheets and the postcards were handed out at local events like some of our local fairs, and were provided to parents of school-aged children in September when they went back to school, as well as the councils were provided both with hard and soft copies that they could distribute as they saw fit. So the next slide, I do apologize, it is quite small, but you do have a link to it in the report itself. Here you'll see the wild parsnip mapping that we did first in 2014, then again in 2015. The green areas on there, so we have lines and dots. The dots signify the parks, and the lines are the roadways. So the green is the light infestation levels, the yellow is the medium, and the red is the high infestation levels. So if you look at the two maps, has the wild parsnip plant spread? Absolutely, but I do want you to be cautious in looking at them because in 2015 we took a more comprehensive look at mapping the areas with infestation levels. We had our staff go out during the regular beats and actually document the different infestation levels, if there was any, along the roadsides and in the park. So it is a more comprehensive look on the 2015 side. So through the agronomist report that we received, we saw that mowing is not a successful strategy on its own to decrease the wild parsnip levels, although it does help control the spread of the weed if it's cut prior to it going to seed. The use of the herbicide Clearview is a useful tool to supplement our current maintenance practices. The application of the herbicide is most effective in mid to late May, prior to the plant going to flower, or in the fall to target the new growth. And as I mentioned in the last slide, the mapping exercise did show that the infestation levels of the plant did spread across the city. So in 2016, we received an additional $98,000 in funding to expand the wild parsnip program. I know some of the reports that went through, I just want to clarify that information. We have $198,000 in total this year, not just the $98,000. So we did receive some additional funding to expand the program. We will continue with the test plots that we had in 2015, which include accelerated mowing cycles, the use of Clearview, and a combination of both. We will also respray the 260 plus kilometers of roadsides and parkland that we did last year, just to ensure that we're combating the new growth from the seeds that have been lying dormant. Just as an FYI, Clearview or any of the herbicides that we have been looking at do not penetrate the seed of the plant, so we are looking at a 3 to 5 year program to ensure that we are tackling the new growth that's coming from those seeds that are laying dormant in the soils. We will expand the application of Clearview to other highly infested areas across the city. These will include roadsides, parks, naturalized areas, and pathways where residents can come in contact with the plant. We will be piloting another herbicide this year called TruVist. It's only been regulated in Ontario for about the last year or two and is shown to be effective, but we are doing our due diligence at this point in time and learning more about the product. We have a meeting, I believe, next week with a representative from the company to let us understand more the effects on ditches, on other plants, and that'll help us determine whether we need a very controlled setting for it, or can we do it along pathways and that at this point in time. So we are doing our due diligence and getting a clear understanding of how that product works. We'll again bring on an agronomist to set up a report on the test plots, report on the test plots. Staff will do another remapping exercise as we get towards the end of the season to see what the infestation levels are at the end of 2016. And most importantly, we will continue to work with our partners and our stakeholders to ensure that we are sharing our best practices and that we're combining our efforts where we can to help either educate people using common signage or partnering with volunteer groups on removal efforts, whether it's with wild parsnip or some of the other invasive species. In 2016, the communication awareness campaign will be a continuation of 2015. We will continue to communicate with the councillors and to put up weekly updates on Ottawa.ca listing the spray locations. As I mentioned earlier, we are working with our partners like the NCC, Gatineau, and a number of other partners across the province on potential consistent signage. So no matter where you go, you see this sign, it's got the different stages of the plant. It gives a little bit more information on where to look. So whether it's on NCC property, on City of Ottawa property, you go into Gatineau, into their parkland, we're trying to do something that's consistent to make it familiar to everyone. We're going to be working with we are actually working with the MOECC on an alternate method of notification for the spraying of roadsides. Because we did over 260 kilometers of roadsides last year, we actually placed signage every 100 meters to notify the public when those locations were going to be sprayed. That was quite onerous. There are alternate methods through newspaper articles, through radio, and advertising to notify the public, which may be a better way of doing it. And in addition to the potential health risks associated with the sap in the wild parsnip plant, we need the residents to understand that it's not only a health risk that we're tackling this plant, it's that it invades the roadsides and the unmaintained areas, which reduces the biodiversity in those infested areas. And that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. I believe that we have some questions. We'll start with that. Councillor Chantier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, staff, for the presentation. Have staff reached out to other municipality? What is the best practice? What's other is doing about this item?
Yes, we actually, last year, we did an extensive reach out.
Can you put your mic on? Sorry.
Yes, last year we actually did an extensive reach out to different municipalities across the province and on the Quebec side to see what they were doing. And at that time, there weren't very many strategies, if any, in place to combat wild parsnip. So we were one of the leaders in moving forward. Our biggest partners, Leeds, Grenville, Stormont, Dundas, Glengarry, are two of the areas which have done spraying in the past. So we did touch base with them just to find out best practices. But at this point in time, we are being looked at as the leaders across the province and in Quebec, and we've actually presented a few different forums for them on what we've done as our strategy moving forward.
And in your opinion, the strategy, is it, because shown from the map, obviously the area is growing, it's not shrinking. So how many years do you think before we'll be able to turn it around?
Well, I think at the end of 2016, we're going to have a true look at how the strategy is working. The mapping that was done in 2014 was based on mostly roadsides, and there were some visual inspections as well as taking the service requests that have come in to do that. In 2015, we sent staff out with a document saying list the infestation level. So it is more comprehensive. It does look a lot more drastic than the 2014 map. It has spread, we do understand that, but at the end of this year will tell us really how much it has spread, and then I would say a 2 to 3 year period until we actually start to see, we're hoping to start to see the infestation levels decreasing because we've now targeted the seeds that have been laying dormant.
And through the chair, are you planning to do this year, same as what you did last year, provide the council with material so we can give it around to our community, also with a direct number? I remember last year was Amanda, something was direct to
Yep.
to Amanda, so this way, instead of going through many levels and the residents frustrated, they just send it to us and at least we'll direct it to staff at that time.
Yeah, the benefit this year is we're ahead of the game this year. Last year was really a learning process. We didn't actually get started spraying until June of last year. The education campaign didn't start till about May or so of last year. This year we're fully engulfed in it now. We'll start the education campaign probably April-ish with the spraying in May. Yes, we will provide councillors with all the information that they are required to pass out to their constituents so they understand what's going on. We actually strongly ask and suggest that you guys do put it on your websites to let the residents know what we're doing and how to get further information. So yes, we will have it passed out to you, and I'm going to guess April is probably a good time frame for that because we are looking at having our spray locations, our draft spray locations done by the end of April, get that information out.
Because I find the information was helpful because sometimes residents cannot tell the difference sometimes with the different plans. So
Yes.
when you direct them, it's different to read it in this report or you see it on a colorful website. So if we can have that material early so we can post it in our website, I think that will help to
Absolutely.
direct our residents to do. But I want to thank you, Mr. Chair, for bringing this report in so early. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You can also, if you want, you can link your website to ritagomer.ca/wildparsnip. Just because it's all there. But yeah, and on the in terms of discussing with our neighbors, should point out too, the stakeholder group that we have that we set up that met a few months ago included South Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, as well as Leeds, Grenville, as well as the NCC and the MOE, and all the different various partners across the region that we've been working with as to how we can manage this together. Understand Gatineau, of course, has come on board as well. So it's a good regional project that we can work on. Obviously, this doesn't, Parsonip doesn't really care about municipal boundaries, so it's important that we do work on this. And it is becoming a very much an Eastern Ontario regional issue. If you go down, pretty much you can get all the way to Belleville before you stop seeing it. So the spread has been quite rampant in the past 2 or 3 years. So it's important that we continue this work, and obviously the increased investment in our efforts hopefully will prove useful. Just quickly, you had mentioned about the notification. I know that we do it because the Pesticides Act tells us we have to.
Yep.
Is there an ability within that act to do it differently like you were suggesting?
Absolutely. We have to work with the MOECC on the alternate methods. They do have alternate methods in place, but we do need their approval, and we do need to set up a plan. So I believe it was Leeds, Grenville that has done that, where they did send out messaging either through community newspapers, radio ads. So they were able to do that. We are working through that process right now.
And are we carrying on with the opt-out option for residents?
Absolutely. With that opt-out option as well, though, there is some requirement on the landowners
Right.
on what they need to do.
Yeah, so it's incumbent upon them to actually take some efforts on their own
Yes.
to remove this plant from the yard. Otherwise, what we do on the rest of the road is useless if they don't do anything on their 100 to 200 feet.
Exactly.
Thanks. Any other questions on this? No, I appreciate you coming, and I appreciate the work that you've been doing. I know this time last year, you had come to us in May of last year, so we didn't get on it as fast as you have to with this, and appreciate the fact that you've come to us in early March and are pushing forward, so we'll be able to see the actions much sooner. Clearly, as we all know, that May and early June is your main target points for tackling this plant. So appreciate that. On the report then, received? Great, thanks again. So on to item number 4, which is the zoning bylaw amendment for 5371 Boundary Road and part of 5329, 5341, and 5383 Boundary Road. Because there are speakers, I will ask Sean to come up and provide a presentation. Just make it easier. We do have 2 speakers on the item, and there was a submission, but they were in support. But we do have, because we have 2 speakers, I figured it would be important to get just a brief presentation on the item. So the plan on the file is Sean Moore, and he's joined by Adam Brown, who's our manager of a bunch of stuff in the rural area. Just acting and this and then doing whatever, so all-around good guy, that's all I know. So Sean, feel free to provide your presentation. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair. So today I'm speaking to zoning bylaw amendment proposal at 5371 Boundary Road and parts of 5329, 5341, and 5383 Boundary Road. So the subject site is located at the interchange of Boundary Road and Highway 417 on the south side, just south of the Grey Hawk Golf Course and a couple kilometers south of the village of Carlsbad Springs. The site is directly across from Thunder Road and the southbound off-ramp from the 417. Just south of the subject property is more industrial lands, and we have the Regenbald drain running through the property under the highway. The site itself is about 35 hectares in size. The applicant is proposing to amend the zoning. The site is currently zoned rural heavy industrial, and the rear portion of the site, the triangular portion, area B on the map, is zoned rural. So the applicant also has a plan of subdivision proposal in this area. So the idea would be to rezone the rear portion to match the heavy industrial rural portion. And then area A on the map would be zoned to allow some limited commercial uses to take advantage of the highway interchange. So those limited retail and commercial uses would be such things as a convenience store, restaurant, drive-through, bank machine, and then a limited retail where we would limit the retail to 1,000 square gross leasable square meters per lot, and only permit the sale limited to agricultural, construction, gardening, or landscape-related products, including the equipment and supplies and automobile and heavy truck parts and accessories. So really, things that are more of a rural nature and things that would not take away from commercial opportunities in the village of Carlsbad Springs, and things that really require large parcels of land and which could create noise and dust and those types of activities that we don't want to see in the village itself. As I mentioned, there's a plan of subdivision associated with this, which staff are working with the applicant to bring forward for draft plan approval in the near future. You can see that it's a single road terminating in a cul-de-sac. There are 5 large blocks of land, 2 blocks fronting onto boundary, which would be subject to those commercial and limited retail opportunities. The large blocks, the idea is that as individual site plans come forward in the future, the applicant could come forward and do part lot control to size those blocks accordingly, depending on who comes in and what size of property the site plan would require. As I think committee and council are aware that there is a official plan amendment associated with this as well for the extension of the trickle feed system, and that was passed by this committee in the summer, but is under appeal and has yet to reach the Ontario Municipal Board. The zoning that I'm dealing with could go either on private well water or the trickle feed system. We're just waiting to see what the results are once that board hearing is heard. So just to summarize, in terms of allowing the rural industrial uses in this area, we know that emphasis of growth is in villages, but we also know that the rural development also allows for industrial uses and other compatible uses outside the villages. And in this particular case, this is ideal because the large lots aren't available in Carlsbad Springs, and also the character of what the heavy industrial uses we would not want to see within the village. Further, the retail uses that the applicant's proposing are compatible with the interchange, allowing some sort of compatibility with highway interchange uses, and we've limited the retail such that it's not going to take away from opportunities within the village a couple kilometers to the north. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. What we'll do now, we'll go straight to public delegations. I know our first speaker on the item is Candace Vetter. If you could just have a seat here. Just press the push button. Nope, just got to press the button. You're good. You're good. So,
I'm good?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good. So you have 5 minutes to address
All
the
right.
committee. Thank you.
I'll probably be less than that. Hang on. So my understanding is that there's a number of projects associated with this property in that general area, and they include this trickle feed expansion, which was for the purpose of, I'm not quite sure what the purpose was, but it was involving additional development in that area. It was also, there's also been the long combination truck stop, long combination vehicle truck stop proposed for that area. There's also the, just south of it in the corner down there, is the proposed Taggart Miller landfill. And now in addition, we're talking about this additional development. And it seems to me that it is, this is the gateway to the national capital from the east. It's also the gateway to Russell Township from the west. And Russell Township will feel a lot more of the effects than the city of Ottawa will with anything that happens in that area, particularly if the water ends up contaminated because of a landfill, which of course people in the area are quite sure That's why the trickle feed system is being proposed. We are aware that Michelle Pito and East Gateway are associated with Taggart Mill and with Pomerleau in the, what are they called? Boundary Road Industrial Landowners Association, I believe is their name, which I don't think is actually an incorporated entity. It may be, but I don't think it is. And finally, there has to be consultation with the Township of Russell, and there has not been any consultation. And if you're going to do things in the City of Ottawa that affect us who live right next door, and by next door I'm talking like my house is less than a kilometer away from the City of Ottawa boundary, then you have to talk to us. You have to come out to Russell, you have to make your presentations in Russell Township Council chambers where people from Russell can come and comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to, on that, I neighbor 3 municipalities, Montague Township, Beckwith Township, and North Grenville. They do stuff up against our border. I don't think they've ever once spoken to me about it, because the reality is within your boundaries, that's your responsibility. This is not going to be a discussion, so I'm not asking you a question. So I get your point, but at the same time, there isn't a part of the process that would have city officials and the applicants speak to Russell Township unless this was a project within Russell Township. Nonetheless, I appreciate what you're saying, but I don't have there is no part of the process that would allow that. And again, I'm not asking a question, so there's nothing to respond to. But I just thought it'd be important to mention that because we have developments. One of the things across the city, one of the things we've done is we've not allowed estate lot subdivisions. So what we're seeing in places like Ashton is on the other side of the border, they're popping up estate lot subdivisions like they're going out of style. Every single one of those uses our infrastructure, uses our roads, contribute nothing to our economy. But it's the reality.
Russell Township does not use your infrastructure or your roads. We have our own.
Sorry, we provide
I came here on a provincial highway.
we provide you with city water. So
Not me.
fair enough. So anyways, thank you for your presentation. Councillor Blais, you have some comments or questions?
I'll wait till everyone.
Okay, so we have one more speaker, Mr. Greg Winters with Novatech.
Thank you very much, Committee, Chair. For the record, my name is Greg Winters. I'm a planner, project manager with Novatech Engineering, and I'm here on behalf of East Gateway Properties today. So some of the delegations that we've heard today, or the delegation that we've heard today, it sounds like it's mostly about servicing. The issue before the committee today is actually about land use. This is a rezoning application that is going to be a condition of the draft plan approval of the subdivision. What we've got is a piece of land that is already zoned RH, so rural heavy industrial. The application before us today is extending the uses on the back half of the property to basically add the same uses so that it encompasses the entire boundary of the subdivision. The front half of the property, we're adding just a small number of commercial uses to the front half, gas station, service, commercial uses, basically to service the traveling needs of the public. The application that we have before us is consistent with the 2014 provincial policy statements, in which that document from the province says that it should allow municipalities to have a limited amount of development in the rural area, and part of that is to allow for employment uses that make use of 416 or 417 interchanges, like highway interchanges. The city's official plan itself also contains policies that state that rural industrial uses, rural commercial uses are permitted in the general rural area, subject to meeting the needs of the traveling public. We believe these uses fulfill both of those, and that it provides employment lands that services the greater good of Ottawa, Carleton, as well as it meets the needs of the traveling public. So we believe this to be an application that is good planning. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Greg. Any questions for Greg? No, seeing none. Thank you. And just to the point that Mr. Winters was making, the application before us. I know that's one of the other things that the city's been working on through the official plan review of 2013 was an employment land study. And I know Councillor Blais and I both sit on a group that's been looking at that. And from the rural area, one of our priorities has been how do we achieve better economic development opportunities in the rural area. And a lot of that has been focused on rural interchanges, 416 interchanges, 417 interchanges. And they don't offer a lot of opportunity because you have agricultural uses, the inability to service, which does create challenges. This one here with the expansion of the trickle feed system that was approved in July by this committee does present those opportunities for further rural economic development and commercial expansion in the rural area along the 416 and also along the 417. So it's there are benefits that way in terms of rural development. I know Councillor Blais wouldn't speak, but no? So Councillor Blais?
Thanks very much, Mr. Chair. I want to address a couple of the issues that have been raised. First, on consultations with Russell. I find that rich. Had Russell consulted with the City of Ottawa about the Taggart-Miller dump years and years ago, perhaps we wouldn't be facing it in Ottawa. We would be facing it somewhere else. Second of all, the former mayor of Russell, very good man, JP, he and I used to talk on a very regular basis. The new mayor of Russell hasn't called or reached out once in the last year. So if Russell wants to be involved, they need to get involved. And they don't get involved by sitting around not doing anything. Thirdly, as Councillor Hubley mentioned during the presentation, residents of Russell, of Rockland, of Carleton Place, of Arnprior, of Kentville use our roads on a daily basis to get to work. Downtown Ottawa is still the center of gravity for employment in Eastern Ontario, and to say that they don't benefit from the investments that Ottawa taxpayers make in that road and transit network is ridiculous. As far, and the City of Ottawa, as councillors might remember, asked the provincial government to begin an Eastern Ontario development plan in 2014. To date, I don't know that there's been any movement by the province on that plan, and in fact, most small municipalities, and I would hazard a guess, Russell included, have been against that plan. And this is a plan that the city wants to develop for Eastern Ontario so that these kinds of development applications are coordinated, that transportation networks are coordinated, that we start looking at ourselves as a region and not a combination of small municipalities working against each other. And so if Russell wants to participate, perhaps they should write the minister and encourage the minister to move forward with that plan very quickly. This is going to bring employment to a much-needed area of our city. It's going to make use of our highway interchanges. They're underused in the East End at the moment. I would argue in the West End probably as well. It's why we've focused on highway interchanges as part of the employment lands review. And this will bring innumerable jobs to a small rural village, which frankly has very few. Carlsbad Springs is very small. There are very few businesses in Carlsbad Springs, and this will bring employment opportunities to a great number of people. So I encourage the committee to support the application.
Thank you. I'll just read the recommendation as I did earlier, that the Agricultural Rural Affairs Committee recommend Council approve an amendment to zoning bylaw 2008-250 for 5371 Boundary Road and part of 5329, 5341, and 5383 Boundary Road for the purpose of rezoning a portion of lands from rural countryside to heavy industrial and a portion of heavy industrial to a new rural heavy industrial exception with an exception zone to permit a limited amount of commercial uses as detailed in document 2. Any further questions on the item? No. Gary? Thank you. Sorry, that was my fault. So we have no further items on the agenda. In-game items, none. Open mic session. Nobody signed up for the open mic session. Notices of motion for consideration of subsequent meeting. None. Inquiries. I know Councillor Dewes has an inquiry.
Thank you, Chair. I have an inquiry for staff. Throughout my ward, there are many decrypt and unreadable 911 address blades. These blades are posing a safety risk to residents because of emergency services are unable to read the numbers on the houses or the establishments. Under the current practice, residents who receive these subpar blades from the Township of Osgood must go in and pay to have their sign replaced. I'd like to ask staff please to investigate and report back to ARAC with an action plan to replace these blades across the city. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other inquiries? None? Just on other business, just before we adjourn, I just wanted to say really quickly, an item that's come up recently, it's a discussion paper that's out talking about coach houses. It's something that eventually will come to Agricultural Affairs Committee. The report that was released indicated that it might just go straight to planning. It does have implications across the city. The current document for discussion reads as though coach houses would not be permitted in the rural area on private well and septic systems. That's something that I can tell you every member of this committee opposes, that it wouldn't be included in the rural area. So we're working with staff. I've already met with John Smith, who's the lead on this, to discuss how we can achieve that. So when that report does come forward, it will come to Agricultural Affairs Committee and Planning Committee, and it will include a recommendation that allows coach houses in the rural area. So I just wanted to clarify that because we have been receiving comments on that, and it's our job to make sure that we bring forward a report that is reflective of what residents in the rural area would like to see. And so after that, on adjournments, carried. And our next meeting is Thursday, April 7th, 2016. Thank you.